Hi, I'm Marcus Fairs, founder and editor-in-chief of Dezeen, and welcome to day 5 of Dezeen 15, a digital festival celebrating Dezeen's 15th birthday. As part of this, we asked 15 creatives from around the world to come up with ideas for how to change the world over the next 15 years. Over the coming days, they'll all be presenting their manifestos for a better world. Today, we're speaking to architect Yasmeen Lari about her ideas. Hi, Yasmeen.
Hello there, Marcus. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Thanks.
Tell us a little bit about who you are and where you are.
I sort of I practiced as an architect for the longest time as in Pakistan, and I retired, and I now work with humanitarian kind of whatever activities. We also do a lot of work in heritage conservation, and I hail from Pakistan. Right now, I'm talking to you from Karachi. It's late at night now, huh? It's about 8 o'clock. So, but I'm still active, although I'm very old now, and that's nice because I'm able to do quite a lot of work with people who are marginalized. So there we are.
And is it true that you were the first woman in Pakistan to qualify as an architect?
Well, it was a long time ago, so I should not be surprised that I was the first woman. I was a bit surprised. I had no idea when I returned. I don't think you can plan these things, and it just happened. So yes, as it happens, I was.
And you had a career as a kind of conventional architect, and then you stopped doing that, and then you switched to more humanitarian work. Tell us a little bit about that story.
Well, I think I practiced for several decades in Pakistan, and did quite a lot of large scale work for corporate sector. I did some social housing as well during the late 70s. But from 80s onwards, somehow it was a lot of corporate work. And a time came when I thought I needed to get off this particular route because it had become very boring somehow. And I'd begun to write, and my husband, who had been a business executive, he decided to sell his company, which was an insurance company, and he began to write and became a historian of quite some eminence. And I decided the time has come for me also to do something else with my life. So I retired.
And tell us a little bit about the work that you've been doing and the organization you set up to do that work.
Well, my husband and I, we founded a Heritage Foundation of Pakistan way back in 1980s to start seeing what could be done to save heritage of the country. And so that was going on until I retired, and then we became more active. Of course, in the meantime, we've done quite a lot of documentation of heritage and got a couple of laws through which we were able to save quite a few historic buildings in cities such as Karachi. And then, of course, once I retired, I was able to devote more time, and I worked with UNESCO as their national advisor at the World Heritage Site of Lahore Fort, which is a fantastic site. You must all come and visit it. And then, of course, the earthquake happened of 2005, which was the most devastating earthquake that we'd ever known, and I think the world had ever known. 80,000 lives were lost, and something like 400,000 families were displaced. And I decided to go there at that time. And everybody really from all over the world wanted to go and help. And so many Pakistanis also. And so all of us went. And because I had retired, so I was at liberty to just carry on working as to whatever I wanted to do. And so it was the most amazing experience. I don't know, any one of you might have gone through a disaster like that, but that just changes your life, and certainly did mine. Yes.
Fantastic. So I think you should now maybe share your presentation and your manifesto to tell us more about your ideas for a better world.
Okay, so I'm going to try to see how I can now get to the sharing of my presentation. And there we are, I think. This is the one.
I can't. Yeah, now I can see something.
You can see something. Oh, great. That's it then.
All right. And then you just need to make that the main screen on the...
I have to make it in the main screen. Can we do this to make it into main screen? Do that. Yeah, we're just trying to do that. Just hold on for one moment. Yeah. Is that okay now? Can you see it as a main screen now or not?
I can see the first slide, but also I can see all the other ones along the bottom. It's fine to do it like that, but there should be a way that we can just see the main.
Okay, no, let's
slide.
maximize it. Sure enough. Just if you bear with us for a moment, I'm getting some help in doing this, and so let us see. Yeah, so it's what I'm presenting today is really based on the manifesto that I had sent earlier. And can you see it now? Can you see how it is? Hello?
Yeah, can't see it just yet.
Oh, they can't see it. Okay.
Maybe just do it how it was. It's okay. We'll be able to follow it.
Okay, just one moment. We'll just give it another try and hopefully that'll work. Yeah, we'll just redo the thing and then it'll be fine.
There should be a button or something that says show full screen or full screen.
Yes, there is actually. We tried it out. It worked quite well. And then I'm not sure what's going on now, but I think we are getting there. So is that better now?
Yeah, that's it. Yep, that's it.
Oh, that's it. Am I relieved? Okay, wonderful. Right. So, hello everybody from Pakistan, and my manifesto, the title is Social and Ecological Architecture for Humanity. And what I'd like to sort of, really sort of discuss with you is that we live in an era that is beset with fragmentation and disruptions. Our world is ravaged by rising poverty levels, increasing disparities, resource depletion, and climate change, together with the impact of COVID-19. In this new world disorder, how can we continue to design only for the privileged ones, the 1% who have acquired the most wealth? There are greenhouse gas emissions, recurring disasters, climate emergencies, and consequent climate change migrants, conflict-impelled refugees, the displaced, and the homeless. All these require innovative design solutions. And the homeless are really now everywhere. It's not that it's only in our countries. So I know the gravity of the situation. My country, Pakistan, is the 5th most vulnerable country. And we've seen so many of these disasters in the last years, I cannot even begin to tell you. So what we have to do now is to see how we deal with them. So under such challenging circumstances, when many countries in the world are unable to meet the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals or SDGs, it is the power of design that is in demand for serving the other 99% also. Somehow we have to get to them as well. We need to remind ourselves that it is not only the privileged who have a right to enjoy well-designed environments. The disadvantaged and those that live on the fringes need more and not less design to achieve a better quality of life. These are the voiceless majority that require architectural, cultural advocacy and must be provided agency through architectural expressions that resonate with their age-old traditions and lifestyles. So this is a zero carbon bamboo women's center for marginalized sections of society built in a flood-prone area. They get floods every year. So that's how this building is on stilts. And so we must develop a framework for a change direction in architecture. We need to do away with the prevalent colonial mindset and the desire to create imposing megastructures, which have traditionally been commissioned by the likes of the Medici family of Florence, the robber barons of the East India Company, the merchant princes of the Industrial Revolution, and present-day exploitative multinationals that promote wasteful, high-carbon methodologies and highly consumptive modes of living, such as the building I designed when I practiced as a architect. So I designed this building in the early 1980s for the largest oil company in Pakistan, listed in Fortune 500. This was before I gave up designing for the 1% and chose to become a humanitarian architect in the 2000s. So what is now, this is a school that is in Earth, but I want us to reset concepts to deal with the new normal, to fashion an equitable world by democratizing architecture, promoting community participation, co-building and co-creation in order to help stitch the frayed tapestry of the Earth and to take the lead in the use of sustainable, locally sourced materials, to incorporate attributes drawn from tradition and heritage and pursue carbon neutral circular economy principles in architecture to overcome social injustice in the global South and ecological injustice and eco-bigotry, I'm sorry to say, in the global north. This, what you see is a zero carbon earth and bamboo structure with a naturally ventilated thatched roof built with construction techniques drawn from vernacular traditions in Pakistan, incorporating technical interventions with built-in climate resilience. So here's another slide I wanted to show you. Because using such concepts, I've carried out large-scale humanitarian projects in Pakistan, building of over 50,000 zero-carbon one-room houses and 70,000 zero-carbon fuel-efficient stoves, along with scores of zero-carbon eco-toilets that have benefited 840,000 persons over 5 years. Through this process, I have demonstrated the value of well-designed and affordable zero-carbon structures using local green materials such as earth, lime, and bamboo, thus providing disaster risk reduction, that is DRR compliance, as well as dignified living for marginalized sections of society. It is the 3 L's, the least use of water, the least waste stream, and the least use of energy that can show us the right direction. And the 3 zeros, zero cost to donor, zero carbon, and zero waste, that can provide a path to zero poverty for the disadvantaged. I would like to see a new activism among architects for the adoption of innovative approaches, such as degrowth, transition design, as well as barefoot social architecture, a stratagem that I have devised to maximize the advantages inherent in the barefoot ecosystem, that is the majority in most of the country, that comprises marginalized majority in many or any countries, as I said, thus ensuring the well-being of humankind as well as our planet. So I have a profound empathy for marginalized sections of society, where it is women, people of color, or impoverished, struggling to live a dignified life. It is those who walk barefoot that are my fellow travelers today. It is from them that I have learned to create designs which respect Mother Earth, using its resources judiciously, designs that ensure that nature's bounty is not frittered away. So the image is a common sight in rural Pakistan, where people are compelled to walk barefoot because they have no shoes. So this is what they have to do. This understanding of the unmet needs of the majority have led me to devise Baza, or barefoot social architecture. So what is Baza? Baza is akin to social engineering with addition of cultural and technical dimensions that fosters right-based development, providing shelter, sanitation, clean food and water at 1/4 of the usual cost through a process of self-building and co-creation and use of locally sourced sustainable materials. The first tenet promotes the use of the 3 zeros as well as zero charity to provide self-worth and self-reliance among the poorest of the poor. So the picture shows a prefabricated bamboo house rendered and decorated with lime stabilized mud application, self-built by impoverished communities. And then secondly, providing social and ecological justice through humanistic architecture, fostering pride, dignity, and well-being, and helping conserve the planet's resources. So this zero carbon earthen Pakistan chula cooking stove fosters pride and dignity for women, which led to its winning UN World Habitat Award 2018. And so the vulnerable masses who have not been considered worthy of attention by architects. Sorry, just a moment. I think I've mixed up my papers a little bit. So sorry, thirdly, delivery of unmet needs of marginalized sections for training them as barefoot entrepreneurs through incubator for social good and environmental sustainability, which helps fabrication and marketing of affordable products for BOP or bottom of the pyramid. In this enormous zero carbon marquee like bamboo structure, members of the poorest mendicant communities are being trained in making products for unmet needs of the poor, using green craft skills for making, among other impoverished segments of society. So they make them and then sell to other poor people. And fourthly and last tenet is constructing well-designed, non-engineered structures for shrinking the ecological footprint of buildings, using green skills and locally sourced sustainable materials. This is the largest non-engineered structure in Pakistan, and I believe among only a handful of such structures in the world. Zero Carbon Cultural Center, or ZC3 as it is known, utilizes prefabricated, locally sourced bamboo elements using zero water, zero waste stream, and zero energy, built by non-literate, semi-skilled local workforce. Whether it is an architect for the poorest of the poor, such as myself, or a prima donna creating iconic edifices, we must all strive for a humanistic, inclusive architecture that is driven by environmental considerations and one that responds to the needs of the majority. The vulnerable masses who have not been considered worthy of attention by architects can no longer be ignored in a global village where COVID-19 has blurred distinctions and equalized humanity. I would like to appeal to all built environment professionals to be aware of the damage being caused to the planet by current construction practices. It is estimated that the use of cement and steel and other industrialized building materials accounts for 38 to 40% of carbon emissions and energy usage worldwide, making the industry among the largest environmental polluters. Its water usage stands at 16%, with 3 billion tons of raw material consumption and 15 to 20% of waste stream. On an annual basis, as you might know, the energy requirement of steel in its production is 1600 to 1800 centigrade, while for cement it is 1450 to 1550 centigrade, and even the burnt brick stands at 1000 degrees C. We have seen that actions taken unthinkingly by built environment state and non-state actors around the world are causing grievous harm to humankind. Thus, there needs to be a dramatic rethink, I believe, in the kind of materials that we have been using for construction. Can the use of high energy consumptive cement and steel be minimized by creating hybrid structures? A combination of high carbon skeletons with low carbon infill and finishes? Incorporating my favorite zero carbon materials such as lime instead of cement, bamboo instead of wood, and lime stabilized earth and aggregate that will make cement concrete redundant. Imagine what could be if architects assume the lead to fashion a divergent but more egalitarian, just and humane world, and transform the present carbon-intensive environment through an inspired architectural vocabulary which would tread lightly on the planet. Imagine if their creativity was utilized not just for the select few. Now that COP26 has brought the need for climate resilience into sharp focus, I would like to request all those who can hear my voice to make a vow today to lower the carbon footprint in all future endeavors, and understanding that I believe to be crucial for the survival of, an undertaking that I believe is crucial for the survival of humankind. I thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Yasmeen. Do you want to unshare your screen now?
Yeah, okay. I'll do that. Right.
So that was a very powerful speech. Thank you very much for that. In your manifesto, you talk about architects designing imposing megastructures, and you yourself, as you showed, once designed imposing megastructures. What is it about architects that makes them want to do that in the first place?
I think all of us have been trained in a certain manner, and as we know in the past, we sought commissions and we followed what was expected of us, and we were all trained to have these enormously inflated egos, and we felt that we're really a gift of God to earth, and what we had to do would be something spectacular. So anything small, anything insignificant is not something that we were trained to do. And even today, even though the world, I believe, has changed, and I mean, I'm talking about all this when I was being trained, I graduated in 1963 from Oxford School of Architecture, which is now Oxford Brookes. And so it's been a long time, but I see that architects they have the same mindset. So I think now that the world has changed and there's so many possibilities now with different, the way the disasters are. I've mentioned all those things, and there's so much now available for architects to do. I don't know why they should be stuck with just these very grandiose plans. And COVID-19, I think now it's going to change the world. It's going to change the way we think about architecture, what we do with people. So you've got to go in for a more humanistic kind of, architecture.
And you mentioned the COP26 climate conference, which by coincidence is happening at the same time as our birthday festival. From where you sit, from the global south, from the south, from Asia, how does that conference look to you? Does it look like a load of nonsense? Is it blah, 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 as Greta Thunberg has said? Or do you think they're genuinely trying to solve the crisis?
I think the problem with all these conferences where so many countries are attending, then you have to be very diplomatic. So everybody's declaring things, but doesn't mean that they will really fulfill those. And sometimes many leaders we've seen that whatever they actually decide, they go back on their word. I mean, look at Paris Agreement, which is said at that time it said, no more than 1.5 rise in temperature. And then we saw what happened in the States, for instance, in the US, where they just went back on everything. So this is happening all the time because countries are not really mindful of the future generations, I think. I think politicians are pandering to the for popularity in their own countries. And so let's hope it works. I mean, this is now because we keep on having these COPs all the time. So of course there's more emphasis. And I just hope that we now think of these things more. And some countries, I think, are now going around doing the right thing. So let's hope that more and more of them actually follow that.
And you talked about how architects are almost trained, in your words, to have an ego and to want to make these monumental structures. But do you think there are also a lot of architects like yourself who are trying to push the profession in a different direction and show leadership on climate? But in general, do you think the architecture profession is doing enough? Is it taking the issue seriously enough? Is it making excuses for why it can't influence things?
Yes, because I work in areas where really there are no architects right now. Literally, when the disaster happens, some people come in and then go away. And my struggle today is to see how architects can actually take this challenge, this climate challenge particularly. And really, if you're a good designer, you can make do with very kind of, resources that are limited even, because then you design in that way. And I feel that this lowering of carbon footprint, even if we can't get zero carbon, which I'm doing all the time, at least we'll have low carbon buildings, because that at least everybody can achieve. And I think we have to push the industry to now do more research on materials that can become available. For me, you see, earth and lime and bamboo are available in my country. And I go back to, all these traditions that have been there. So really, I think the East or the Global South can show the way as to how you can learn from tradition, because every country has its own traditions. And why can't we all do that and see that we do something that's more reasonable, that is good for the planet and good for human beings as well? And there are lots of movements now happening in the world, and I think we need to see that we support them in some way, so that we make a better world for everybody. I think unless we do that, Marcus, I really see no hope.
And you mentioned also what you call the colonial mindset. I don't know if you saw Cave Bureau, their manifesto yesterday also talked about the legacy of colonial thinking and imperial thinking. Do you think that is true? Do you think people, even though we've supposedly in the post-colonial era, do you think it's still the mindset of a lot of architects that they design assuming they're doing the right thing for other communities?
Yeah, I think it's very much there. All of us have it actually, because we want to really see that we have a finite product that nobody can change. I mean, this is how I behaved also, so I can't really blame anybody for that. This is how we are. And we say, in the colonial rule, they said, well, these are the orders you've got to follow. And so we see on the site, and these are the designs, this is the way it is, it's got to be this way. And nobody can make any changes. We don't design for any change. So I think with my work now, I've learned that it's much more fulfilling if you let go of the control, that you somehow let people, start participating in the whole thing, give them agency, give them, tell them that they also have a right to be able to participate in this. And I'm not saying that every building will be like that, but I think majority of the people do want to have a say in it. But we have to find a right way. I mean, for me, design is very important. I don't want that it should all get messed up. But I think we can find ways where you, like I keep on saying, I really like to design a kind of a canvas and then let other people, bring in their own creativity. And that makes it so much more of an enriching product, because it's not just the same everywhere. So I think it's a different way of thinking and looking at things.
So in other words, you seem to be saying that the kind of conventional approach to architecture is in itself a colonial process. It's a product of a colonial mindset.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Because there's no doubt about it. I mean, of course, a colonial mindset didn't come by itself. I mean, we're talking 19th century, but before that also, there were, patrons and everybody who controlled you. and became more and more so because there was so much money and so much, and the money brought power. And even today we see that, as there are these studies that say that only 1% now holds all the wealth in the whole world, basically. So they're the ones who control and tell you what to do. And we are very, as architects, as a profession, we are happy to follow that because we need those commissions. So what if we forgot about taking commissions? What if we went into communities and started to work with communities and see their design deficits everywhere. I mean, their lives have nothing of design apart from what the tradition has, but of today's conventions, they really don't have it. And we need to help them to be able to have good design, use their tradition also. But, we can find work to do. And young architects, particularly, I feel, they're the ones who will have to do it. Because for them, otherwise, the future, I don't see much for them happening. So if they were to go into communities and say, how can we help? Then they find their own projects. Don't wait for a commission from somewhere or some wealthy person to give it to you. And why should we be working only for the wealthy anyway? I mean, I have no taste now. I mean, I really don't want to work for any wealthy people. I have no desire. But I'm happier doing what I'm doing now as it happens.
When you're talking about the 1% and then the 99%, but when you're designing for or better with the 99%, do the 99% actually aspire to be part of the 1%? Or are they happy with humble architecture that's zero carbon and has got basic materials, or do they actually want a palace and a fast car and a jet off on holiday around the world?
For them, day-to-day living, they want is just a comfortable life, water and sanitation and just shelter and everything else. I mean, they're not exposed to all the high-tech stuff that all of us are, And for them, I think it's important that they have, and they're all very cohesive society now. They're together and they want to carry on. And, in our old towns in Pakistan, particularly, we have these walled cities where you still have it because the way that the environment is designed, it's low rise and medium density, and you have people kind of congregating together. And I keep on saying, we have to, this whole thing about eco-urbanism really has to be based on traditional urbanism. That is when you get, you put focus on people, not on cars, not on vehicles, not on wealth, not in the, finally people have to be, their well-being is important. It's important that they are happy. So we need to create those spaces and buildings where people can have a lifestyle of their own choosing, basically, You should not impose everything to people, I believe.
And how possible is it? You're talking about the kind of carbon footprint of the materials that architects traditionally use, particularly concrete and steel, compared to the materials that you're using now, bamboo, lime, things like that. How possible is it for those kind of materials to be used at the kind of scale that we need to build at? How possible is it for those kind of zero footprint, zero carbon materials to be used on a much bigger scale?
Well, as I explained, I've done so many thousands of these structures, and it's all, these materials are available everywhere for us. So, it's very easy to do that. But I can understand that in other countries, maybe it is not that easily available. So you have to find your own materials now. And there are many that there's a lot of research going on now on these things. And cement is not cement should not be considered the sum and total of everything that we do in life. Cement was only, created in the 19th century. It only came into real popular kind of usage in the early 20th century. So lime was being used by, all kinds of fantastic edifices. I mean, look at the Roman aqueducts, look at the pyramids, look at our own forts in Pakistan, Timurid and the Mughals and so on. And so that is a material that's really, I don't know why we were not taught about it. And I would never have known about it if I hadn't worked in heritage. That's how I learned the value of it. And ever since I started working in 2005 in the earthquake area, I have not used cement at all anywhere. There's no need for it. And there's more research needed, of course, but there are people working on this. They're working on, lime concrete and how do you reinforce it with bamboo, and the bamboo itself, you can make some spectacular structures with bamboo. But of course, in every country, we have to find what is there that can be low carbon. And you need more research, of course you do, but we all have to focus on that.
And you talked about architectural education. I mean, classic architectural education is churning out architects that have this imperial or this colonial mindset. How should education change then? And are you involved in any kind of educational initiatives? How can we educate a new generation of architects that don't think like that?
Well, first, I just feel that we are not giving a chance to architects to really play around or experiment with other materials apart from just the conventional cement and steel and so on. And because they are mostly non-engineered, so the problem is that people feel you can't justify what you build, and that kind of thing. But I think the more we introduce these elements to students, like for instance, in Milano, when I was there, they had put up the bamboo structures themselves, looking at my drawings and our videos and so on. And they were happy doing it because they suddenly found another material. The same is true for many universities in Pakistan, which are experimenting, where we're supporting them to be able to, on their campuses, to build something. And then British Council has come up with something with WOW, which is the Women of the World, where we'll be, again, spreading the whole thing and possibly build something in London even. The ones who are being trained here, they would probably go and build something there. Now, I'm not saying that everywhere you should build with bamboo, but why not? I mean, bamboo is a perfectly good material and you can do quite a lot with that. So that's why architects need to concentrate on not new, but these other materials, alternative materials, so that, you design something with it. And I think, once they set a mind to it, I mean, architects are the best designers. And they should be leading the whole thing. They should be leading this whole, the climate resilience and all these issues that we are confronted with. Where are they?
Well, where are they? Is there anyone out there who you admire, apart from the work that you're doing? Who would you say is giving the right messages, but not only talking the talk, but also putting it into practice? Are there other people who are pushing things in the right direction, do you think? We've lost you there, Yasmeen. I'm not sure if you can hear me. Can you hear me, Yasmeen?
I don't know. I don't see. So I managed to do all these experimentations. Hassan Fateh very much, who in our domes and everything. So they have asked me. Hello.
Hello. We missed.
Yeah,
I missed the first.
Hello. Can you?
I can hear you now. Yeah, I missed the first bit of your answer. Do you mind starting that answer again to say who you think is out there that's doing good work?
Yeah, well, I was just saying that most architects, I got a chance really to be able to experiment with so many things over so many years now, since 2005, because I was working in the humanitarian field. Normally an architect working in usual fields is not expected to be doing all this, because they are trained to do something else. Having said that, of course, there are architects who've done work, from time to time, but nobody is really devoting their life to this kind of work because they have other things to do as well. But I do admire very much Hassan Fateh, who was this Egyptian architect who almost a century ago started to talk about, architecture for the poor. He wrote a book and he worked with mud at that time. And he's the one who inspired me to really carry on with this. But I have branched off into something else now. I'm also using bamboo, which he, of course, didn't do. And of course, I have the other guru that I have is Marcus Vitruvius, because, he's talking about lime, and what he talks about is, how do you have basically, just use the natural elements for alchemy of elements and so on, which is very exciting to read after so many centuries. So there are people who've been working, but nobody has done really in a consistent manner. I think we need more and more of people who will just devote their life to doing this now. But, but I think that needs a change of mindset and a change in, I think, educational systems and the way the industry works and the lobbies that are there. So there's quite a lot that you need to change, basically, if you want architects to be involved in this kind of work,
How much dialogue is there between the work that you're doing and similar people in other parts of the world, both the global south and the global north? Are you in touch with other people who are doing similar things in Africa, for example, or South America, or even in Europe?
Not to the degree that I would like very much to do, but certainly there have been discussions for instance, with India and also with Bangladesh. And so that is, we are talking about this. And for instance, this work that I'm doing, it's being also done in Malawi, and I feel that's where probably for us, people like us who are working, that's where the market is. That's where the poverty levels are high. That's where people want a better quality of life without having to pay the kind of prices that are there for conventional construction. And that's why this whole thing about co-building and co-creation and doing it yourself becomes so important, because you'll never be able to achieve affordability if you get contractors and others to do it. But I think it has to be much more dialogue in this. And even recently now, Intibau itself has actually launched a climate challenge, for students. And I think that kind of activities are going a long way now to at least, bring about a certain kind of awareness about what we need to do. But I'm hoping there should be much more of it, of course.
And how applicable are the techniques and methodologies and materials that you're using? How applicable are they to the West, to the global North? We have all these regulations here. We have this kind of hyper-capitalist system. What can we learn from what you're doing in somewhere like the UK, for example?
Well, first of all, I think that, I think all these bylaws and things may have to change. There's quite a lot that I believe is going on in terms of, for instance, circular economy. I believe London is going well ahead with that. And so that is the kind of route to take, and to see what other materials now can be taken up rather than just using the conventional, and see how they can be reused, or their life could be extended. And similarly, I think in some universities, there's a lot of research going on alternative bricks, for instance. And certainly lime brick has been there forever, and it is something that can be used. Because I think if you were to look at any kind of structures, like if you want to put up, let's say, a multi-story tower, and you put up, you can't do it obviously without steel or having a concrete frame, but internal all partitions could be lime brick, for instance, which is very strong. It is sun-dried and everything, and there are lots of similar materials, I believe, that are available. So why should we just start with those first of all, and do more research? Because there are so many materials, I'm sure that they can be made into low carbon, because all of us have to now work towards it. I mean, I know there are carpets now being done which are low carbon, that kind of thing. So I mean, we have to see how we stop using so much chemical and everything, and you go more into natural fibers, go more into that sort of thing. So I think if we do that, then there is a hope.
I was talking to Winnie Maas from MVRDV a couple of days ago as part of this same Dezeen 15 festival. And he said that architects need to be able to accept that they will lose work if they stick to their principles. He said that they had entered a competition to design the headquarters for a Russian gas company, and they proposed a timber headquarters, and they didn't win. But he said that he was glad in a way to not win, because the principle was the important thing.
But I believe, on the other hand, Sweden has done some multi-story tower in wood. Now, I think Sweden is the only country that probably can afford to do this, because they have a lot of forests, I believe. But anywhere in the world, of course, you can't even think of using wood anymore, because you're just denuding all the forests everywhere. So that's why we have to look at these materials. And I mean, I think bamboo has a tremendous potential, actually. I'm sorry, I feel like as if I'm, promoting bamboo because I have, probably have an interest in growing it or something. I would like it to be grown, but I don't have any bamboo fields or anything. But I think that's an amazing material. I've started to use it since 2009, and it's incredible what it can do. So, that's right there. I mean, there's no reason for us not to consider something like that. And I was told, for instance, that there was no bamboo being grown. I was told in Italy, and they found bamboo being grown in Italy. Similarly, because we are all working towards, doing something in the UK, and this friend of mine with Intibau, Harriet Wentberg, has found somebody who grows bamboo in the UK. So, and why can't we grow more of it everywhere? So, but if you find usage for it, then people will grow it. But architects have to decide that they have to do this.
And the bamboo that you're using, is it grown locally in Pakistan? And presumably you're using bamboo because of what you're saying of deforestation has taken so much of the timber away.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we know what's happening today in the world. And I mean, this whole, the carbon emissions are horrendous now, and we have to stop them. And, I just this recently, this project we did is called the first Aqua Enclave of the city of Karachi, really in the heart of it, which I call the historic core of the city, where there are lots of historic buildings, all threatened, and the worst of urban blight. And we took this 400 feet long segment, and I put in 4 Miyawaki style forests there. And it's all paved, not with no concrete. I don't use any concrete or steel anymore in any of my works. So that's all paved with the terracotta pavers, which are, as you know, permeable. And terracotta is another amazing material that should be used actually instead of concrete, wherever. And that it's just totally transformed the area, because the air is clean. There are no vehicles there. It's just within 3 or 4 months, the whole entire the environment changed. And also now we get birds coming in that highly polluted and congested area. We get now birds coming in. We saw some butterflies as well. We've even spotted a beehive. So, you start doing things with nature, and you start doing things where you can do away with pollution and high levels of carbon emissions. Then I think you can have cities and places which are good for humans. I mean, that's what we have to do finally, all of us, don't we?
And finally, Yasmeen, if you were once again a young architect and you were given a commission to design the headquarters for a big oil and gas company, what would now, with what you've learnt in the intervening years, how would you approach that now? Would you simply say no, or would you be proposing a bamboo headquarters, or what would your response be?
I don't know really, Marcus, but I think probably I would not want to work for a multinational or corporate sector, but I don't believe in them. I think they're destroying so many things, so why should I be party of that? And I think it was Oliver Wainwright who, when he wrote in The Guardian, and I think titled the whole thing that I was a star architect for I don't know how many years, and now I'm atoning. So this is what I'm doing really. I think my whole life is now to atone for what I've done before.
And what do you feel when you drive past that building, that concrete and glass building that you built? What do you feel? Do you feel embarrassed for your previous?
Yeah, I'm like, oh my God, why should I have done that? I mean, how come I did it? It's no longer relevant. It's no longer relevant even to the city. I mean, I did one of the largest buildings in Karachi, which is the Finance and Trade Center, something like 750,000 square feet of area. I think it's populated by about 2,500 people every day, right? And a lot of people pass by and they look at it. Everybody is very kind. They say very nice things about my buildings. But I know that with my little earthen stove that women make themselves and then decorate so beautifully, there's 70,000 of them built now, right? So that means something like 700,000 people have got advantage out of it or benefited from it. That's the whole thing finally. How many people are you going to benefit with your architecture, with what you do or what you think? And that's important in today's world, We can't just carry on doing things for ourselves. You have to consider everybody else and the environment at the same time. So it's no longer that, as I said, with the Medicis of Florence who were doing fantastic things, very beautiful, there's no doubt about it. But, that's not something that is relevant anymore. You want art, but you want art which can be enjoyed by everybody.
We're in different times now, is what you're saying.
Absolutely right. Yes. So if I, at my age, I can talk about this, why is it young people are not doing all this? Don't they see? Do you think they're not?
Do you think the young people are not taking the issues seriously? Do you not have confidence that young people, young architects, young designers will make things better, or do you think that they're being too passive?
No, actually, surprisingly, I have to tell you, wherever I go, it's the young people who really have discussions with me, really intense discussions, any part of the world where I've been. And they're very keen. But the problem is the society or the profession has not allowed them the opportunity to do those things. Everything is very closed. Everything is still the same conventional stuff. So unless we find ways for our young people to go forward with new ideas, new thought processes, new ways of doing things, how will it happen? If the industry is blocked, if they, there's so much vested interest in so many of these, the industrial empires that are there. So they're not allowing other things to happen. So we have to fight all that. But should it be only the youth who should be doing it, or should be generations like yourselves? I mean, I'm too old now, but people like yourself, that you should be fighting for it. Then you'll find the way for the young people.
Well, we're doing our best, and I wouldn't say you're too old because you seem to have the strength to carry
doing
on.
a commendable job, Marcus. I have to say that you've been, I should not be saying this. You've done amazingly well. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, us, everyone, it's a fight that we all need to engage in together. Yasmeen, thank you so much for your impassioned manifesto and for the fascinating conversation, and hope to see you again soon.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity, Marcus. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Bye.